Thank you so much for your time today, Ebuka. Let's first start by looking at the operating environment we've seen these brewers are playing, looking at the COVID-19 pandemic building up from last year. We've also seen development in the macro space. We're looking at inflation at the levels that it is. Kindly speak to what we're seeing play out and how that is impacting the brewers in Nigeria.
Right, thank you. Thank you for having me, Kenneth. Last year, like you already mentioned, one of the most significant headwinds that Nigeria's brewers had to face, right, was the pandemic situation. So that came on board sometime, late Q1, and it's easy to trace the impact of that headwind on their performances generally. So we had, by virtue of the fact that there were restrictions and lockdown measures put in place to combat the spread of the virus, we didn't see a lot of on-trade sales going on, right? And that significantly impacted the book. So if you split the performance of Nigeria's brewers into two halves, so you look at the first half of the year and you look at the second half of the year, it's easy to see that difference, right, in performance. So in the second half, it was a more positive environment. So there were, the restrictions were relaxed and people got to go out. And then in Q4, the festive demand as well is something that we saw reflect in the brewers' books, right? At the end of the year, we had Nigerian breweries and international breweries, growing their revenues year on year. So and for Guinness, we are still expecting, they run an irregular financial calendar. So we are currently in the 9 months. So by June, we should get full year numbers for Guinness.
All right, now let's get into the Q1 earnings and look at what we've seen play out there and how, what the trends you noted specifically and how it affected the players there.
Okay, so for Q1, I think one thing that stood out is, look at how sales, that's revenue, has performed across the board. I think I was quite surprised by the numbers I saw put out by Nigerian breweries, for example. Right, so Nigerian breweries was able to grow, revenues to a level where we have not seen, them grow revenues to in just a quarter. So for Q1, we are seeing revenues of 105 billion, right? And I think this was largely driven by, it was a mix really of price increases on most of their products, as well as volume increases as well, right? So if you look at where we are coming from, I already mentioned that the second half of last year was generally good for the brewers, right? So what we saw for Nigerian breweries in particular was in Q4, they were able to also generate over 100 billion, right? So, but what I noticed was, you can't split or take out the impact of festivity-driven demand, right? So I was a bit skeptical coming into the new year, but I've seen them replicate, that fit in Q1. For international breweries, the same thing. And then for a comparable period for Guinness, same thing. We're seeing strong double-digit growth in revenues. And I think this is hinged largely on price increases that we saw them implement last year, as well as a rebounding demand for beer.
Well, we're looking at how they're strategizing. Are we seeing any innovation in terms of how they're looking to drive sales, especially according to the different categories? They're talking about the premium, the alcoholic and non-alcoholic segments.
Okay, yeah. So for MB, right? Last year was a really busy year, despite the restrictions and all of that. So we saw new product launches. We saw launching variants of older products. They brought Maltina pineapple and Maltina vanilla. There was a new product, Desperados, right, that was introduced to the market as well. And then we have seen capital investment. They commissioned a new PET plant in the United States last year. So MB has really, they had a really busy year last year, and it just stands out as being the market leader and a company that is positioning itself to take advantage of when we see a turnaround, right, a macro turnaround now in Nigeria. It's one of those companies that is poised to actually take advantage of those changes. Okay, go ahead.
All right, I'm interested to know what your valuation is going forward then as well, looking at your outlook and what you can expect. Especially when you look at the first half of the year, where we're seeing the Easter holidays play out as well, but now we're also seeing the Ramadan fasting period coming into play as well.
Yeah, so all of these, I think, would positively impact on revenues, right? And then we'll see that filter down to an extent to profitability for most of these companies. Mind you, it's just Nigerian breweries, right? That is the only profitable player in that segment at the moment. We're having international breweries and Guinness, in a loss position. But I mean, Guinness as at 9 a.m., like I mentioned, is already in a profit position, and I think this is something that will be sustained by the time fourth quarter results for Guinness now is out. I think I expect really for the company to end the year in a positive note. Last year, what really dragged Guinness's performance, were the write down that the company took and some impairments here and there. So that sort of weighed on the company's overall performance. But this year, I expect really better outing for the brewers.